Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We've got an incredibly epic story lined up for you, one that's going to completely redefine how you view your everyday life. Just imagine for a second the very first time a human being looked at a wild plant and didn't just see a quick, easy meal. They didn't just see a leaf or a stem. They saw possibility. They actually saw a promise buried right there in the dirt. Today, we're exploring the grand narrative of how the simple, seemingly mundane act of planting a seed completely transformed our species and quite literally built the modern world we live in right now. Okay, let's dive into this. How exactly did wandering people who for millennia depended entirely on migrating animals, the changing of the seasons, and, let's be honest, pure luck, suddenly become the architects of fields, villages, and eventually massive cities? It's honestly one of the greatest mysteries of human history. Because this wasn't just a menu change, this was the exact moment humanity began to deliberately reshape the earth. Section 1. The Hunter-Gatherer Life. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive shift that took place. You see, for the vast majority of human history, people didn't farm at all. They were highly mobile hunter-gatherers, living almost entirely in the present tense. But they weren't just wandering around aimlessly. They were expert observers. They knew the landscape the way a master musician knows their instrument. They knew exactly where the berries ripened, exactly which tubers were safe to dig up. Every successful hunt was basically a daily gift. Early farmers, on the other hand, made a massive life-altering trade. They gave up all that mobility to settle down. They switched to a much more grain-heavy, less varied diet, but more importantly, they began living in the future tense. They stopped just chasing food and actually started planning for it.
Section 2. The Spark of Agriculture.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because agriculture definitely wasn't a sudden invention by some lone genius. It was a slow, uneven revolution, born from thousands of tiny observations passed down across countless generations, especially as the climate started changing. Look at how this built into an actual system, like over in the Fertile Crescent. Step 1. People harvested wild grains using basic tools, like stone blade sickles. Step 2. They naturally selected and stored the very best seeds, the ones that didn't shatter and were easiest to gather. Step 3. They replanted those specific seeds and protected that patch of dirt. And step 4. They just repeated this over generations. It created this incredible ecological feedback loop. Humans kept choosing the plants, and the plants actually changed because humans chose them.
Section 3. A Dangerous Bet on Tomorrow.
Now, it's really easy to look back from the comfort of our modern, fully stocked supermarkets and think early farming was just an instant paradise. So the crucial point is grasping just how severe the risks actually were for these pioneers. Honestly, early farming was often much harder and way more physically demanding than hunting and gathering. Fields had to be painstakingly cleared by hand. Pests had to be fought off every single day. A single drought could destroy months of backbreaking labor just like that. A flood could wipe out a whole village's food supply overnight. They dealt with devastating insects, crop diseases, terrible soil, and the constant looming threat of theft from wild animals and rival groups. Early farmers were trading the ultimate freedom of mobility for a very, very dangerous gamble. I really love how this puts it. The first farmers were not simply more advanced than hunter-gatherers. They were making a dangerous bet. I want you to really let that sink in. This required a completely new relationship with time itself. They were basically saying, if we invest all our sweat, all our labor, and our precious calories right now, the land just might reward us later. No guarantees, just a massive leap of faith.
Section 4. How Surplus Built Civilization.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how that dangerous bet eventually paid off. It provided something humanity never truly had at scale before, which was a degree of control over the food supply. And when you can control, store, and predict your food, you unlock the ultimate historical game changer: surplus. And what blows my mind is that this intense desire for food security caused farming to emerge completely independently all across the globe. It wasn't just exported from one single town. In East Asia, they built early farming systems on rice and millet. Over in Mesoamerica, it was maize, beans, and squash. The Andes gave us potatoes and quinoa, and Africa cultivated sorghum and yams. Every environment offered different answers, but they all pointed to the exact same breakthrough. Human labor plus patience could completely transform the earth. And once you have those foundational crops producing a reliable surplus, well, history completely accelerates. Just watch the domino effect here. Phase 1, you get agricultural surplus stored safely away. Because everyone doesn't have to spend every waking hour looking for food, Phase 2 happens. Specialized labor emerges. Suddenly you have weavers, builders, and priests. With those specialists, Phase 3 hits. Permanent towns are built. To manage all this new complexity, Phase 4 kicks in. Bureaucracy and writing are invented. And finally, phase 5, complex empires form. A single seed in the ground directly translates into architecture, roads, laws, and armies. It is literally the foundation of everything.
Let's just zoom in on phase 4 for a quick second, because this is wild. Bureaucracy and writing itself, the very foundations of recorded history, did not start with poetry or great literature. Not at all. It was basically born out of the absolute necessity to keep ledgers. When you store massive amounts of food, you need records. You have to know exactly what was collected, what was owed, and what was taxed. The humble farm literally forced the invention of the ledger, and the ledger created the state. However, we have to recognize that this new reality came with some profound trade-offs. Farming creates civilization, for sure, but civilization creates vulnerability. Agriculture introduced entirely new concepts to the human experience, things like politics, formal hierarchy, and organized conflict. When people settled down, land became a source of immense power that had to be defended. The exact same surplus that fed a growing, thriving city could also attract enemies. The ability to store food meant some people could command and tax others. So agriculture was both an incredible blessing and a really heavy new responsibility.
Section 5, the legacy of the seed. Beyond the sprawling cities, the powerful empires, and the written ledgers, farming profoundly shaped human psychology. It taught our ancestors how to delay gratification, how to plan for a future they couldn't immediately see, and how to cooperate across entire seasons. Just look at the beautiful rhythmic cadence of this process. 1. Put something in the soil. 2. Wait. 3. Trust. 4. Return. The first farmers were placing tiny, almost invisible objects into the dirt, fully expecting a harvest months later. Farming is arguably one of the earliest human practices built entirely on faith in a process. It is a profound, beautiful lesson in optimism. And even today, in our world full of artificial intelligence and satellites, we still completely depend on this exact same basic miracle our ancestors figured out.
So the very next time you eat a piece of bread or a simple bowl of rice, remember those expert observers who, thousands of years ago, dared to believe that hunger could be answered not just by chasing life, but by growing it. A tiny, mundane seed literally built the modern world. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. Based on everything we've looked at, what single crop do you think changed human history the most? Think about that, keep exploring the incredible history right beneath our feet, and I'll catch you next time.